we're going to hold questions for just a little bit until all the students are done, and then we can ask them when the whole panel is up here. Our second pilot project focuses on Freiburg, Germany, with instructors Beth Tryon and Ted Petit. Beth Tryon is our assistant director for community-based learning at the Morgridge Center, where she directs the service learning and community-based research programs. This past summer, she and community partner Ted Petit co-led the Green Summer in Freiburg program and our second WWB pilot initiative. She's also the co-chair of the new Wisconsin Without Borders Advisory Board. Presenting today will be her student, Meredith Keller. Meredith is a senior and a double major in history and political science. She spent 6 weeks in Freiburg for this Green Summer Freiburg program, analyzing green policy in Germany with the intent of introducing their ideas back into Wisconsin. After graduating, she would like to pursue a Fulbright or other scholarship opportunity that would allow her to complete research abroad and some years later attend graduate school for environmental policy or environmental history. Meredith, thank you for being here.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm really excited to be here. Again, my name is Meredith, and I had the privilege of traveling to Freiburg, Germany this summer with Beth, Ted, they've just been introduced, as well as 13 other students from a variety of disciplines. So we traveled to Freiburg with the intent to learn about the green initiatives that have happened over the last 30 or 40 years in Freiburg. Freiburg is renowned as being the most environmentally friendly city in the world, and we think that Madison, being its sister city, has a lot that they could learn from them and them from us. Our students came from a variety of backgrounds: engineering, political science, history, landscape architecture, and more. We visited different businesses and other schools and other locales that had to do with the green initiatives in Freiburg, among them a solar cell factory, a community service center. We also gained knowledge about environmental economics in the context of Freiburg through an environmental economics course at the University of Freiburg. And finally, we engaged in a cultural exchange, which I'll talk about in just a sec. So living in Freiburg, one of the privileges of the program was we were able to live some of the lessons we were learning every day. So this is the Münsterplatz up in the upper left-hand corner, which is the city center of Freiburg around the Münster Cathedral. It's been totally closed off to cars and bicycles, although not all bikes abide by that, and it's much like here. And the farmers market runs 6 out of the 7 days of the week. Up in the lower right-hand corner, you can see some of our students engaging in a service activity through PACT-ON, which is a community service program in Freiburg. It's partly city-funded, and what it does is it matches citizens with service projects so that they really have, much of them environmental, so that they really have a sense of what's needed in the community, and they have ownership over it. Our environmental economics course taught us a few lessons, chief among them that incentives are key when talking about regulating consumers and businesses and wanting to change their behaviors towards the environment. So pollution permits would be an example, or giving incentives for low-emission vehicles, all of which you see in Freiburg. In an economic context, pollution and waste are negative externalities, so they add to the social cost. And ultimately the ultimate cost of a product that's being produced, since these things aren't usually taken into account in the boardroom when you're talking about the bottom line. Several factors must be in place for an energy source to be viable, so it's not enough, unfortunately, just to have the idealism. You also need to be practical about your application of these sources. And finally, offering effective public transportation is all about making sure that your alternative is cheaper, cleaner, more efficient than cars. We engaged in a cultural exchange. I'm going to talk about the bottom there, which has probably piqued everyone's interest first. So Freiburg has, the cornerstone of Freiburg's public transportation system is a streetcar system. It's basically a trolley system. And since we are a sister city, they've made a little homage to us. It's a banner on the side of one of their streetcars. And you can see that this sort of embodies some misconceptions Europeans might have about the United States. Cowboy, bison. And it reflects some of the stories we heard from locals. We stayed with University of Freiburg students, and one of our program participants, Sylvia, was talking with some of her roommates. They were showing her how to sort recycling, and she had to say, well, you know, I've been recycling all my whole life, and they were dumbfounded that Americans recycle. I also met with kids of various ages in one day, and we were talking. I asked them just outright, what's your opinion of Americans in the environment? And most of the responses I got were, quote, not good, or big cars, or a lot of fast food, or big people, you know, just things that aren't always in line with a lot of our values, in particular in Madison. And so I talked to them about the farmers market, and I talked to them about community gardens, and they were really surprised. So as I mentioned, Madison and Freiburg are sister cities. They're very, very similar in terms of population, geography, and their values environmentally and in terms of civic engagement. They are a little bit different, though, in terms of their history. Obviously, Europe has had a much longer history of civilization and buildings and living within having to live within dense communities. So they've had to do city planning a little bit longer, whereas we've had a lot of sprawl. And the electoral systems in each country have sort of informed how the environmental movements have come about. And these are important to keep in mind when we're talking about how to initiate environmental programs here in the United States. I don't have much time to talk about this, but just real quick, I want to talk about a couple of features of the environmental movement in Freiburg. Freiburg has removed all landfills. They recycle 70% of their waste, and they incinerate the other 30%, much of which is through a compost system. They use biodigesters to create thermal heat. They have a 4-bin storage system. Transportation in Freiburg, again, I talked about the no-car zones, incentive-based car ownership, and the trolley system. Again, you can see a bigger picture of the trolleys up there in the upper right-hand corner. So just talking about ultimately what is feasible, what can we take away from this, and what are students coming back here and trying to teach others? So it's important to note that a lot of the initiatives in Freiburg were locally driven. The government there, the city government, is pretty separate from the state and national government. They're kept on a fairly long leash, and it's a little bit similar to Madison. So there's a lot that they can do, and there's a lot that we can do, but at the local level. We can focus on cleaning up our lakes and rivers. We can focus on environmental education, building our community gardens. We already have the Community Action Coalition, Wisconsin Local Food Network, and waste flow. There's been a real interest in improving the waste flow here in the city. We already recycle 66% of our waste, and a biodigester's already been penciled out. So if we do that and even focus on campus, work with community groups on campus to improve our waste flow, that would be a real step in the right direction. So thank you so much.